I promised in yesterday's video I would share the advice the guy gave me at the estate. To remind y'all in the context of what happened, this guy is like an executive at a very popular tech company. When we were talking, I told him everything I do. I do cybersecurity, reverse engineering, kernel drivers, server maintenance, database management, general coding, and so forth, right? Like I wouldn't say I got the whole package, but I could do a lot. And this is what I meant last video, where how these guys were so rough and not like aggressive, but like I could tell they boss people around or deal with rude people all day. I don't know. So when I told them my skill sets and what I do, what I have done and so forth, and the fact that I've been making a living off of this, I haven't had a job in like forever because I've been making money off of my skill sets, right? As my own businesses and so forth. And I told him all of this, right? And he's like, none of that matters. If you were to actually apply for a job in the IT field, in the tech field, they'll turn you down immediately. So I was like, what? How? Like, yo, I literally have 10 plus years of work in a portfolio of my projects, my skills, and so forth. I was ready to shut him down mentally. I was ready to zone out, right? And not listen to a single thing he was saying because this guy's an old timer. Okay, he's an executive at a very popular tech company, all right? And he is probably a multimillionaire at this point or a millionaire. I don't know. But like, I'm literally been making money on my own. Okay. So I don't know. So this guy's saying none of that matters. And this is what I meant last video. My ego was getting hurt, but I kept it to myself and I was like, why doesn't it matter? And he was saying, listen, kid, you have no education and you have no certificates. If you have all those skills that you mentioned, you're an idiot for still making kid money. And then he's saying like, look, most hiring managers look at certificates as something critical for entry and junior level roles. And they care about that more than formal education or being good behind a computer screen with experience. It's cool you have hands-on experience, but outside of your bedroom, nobody cares. I was like, geez, this guy cutting into me. Then the other guy who he was golfing with, right? He jumped to the conversation and said, listen, he's right about people turning you down immediately. Not just because you have no certifications, but because you're a liability. You said you do reverse engineering, but you've never done anything. You never done it in a gray or white hat sort of way. How can anyone trust you? How can anyone trust your history? You said you used to exploit software, right? Code that breached defenses. You think the company isn't going to have legal concerns being associated with you and don't want to potentially risk reputational damage because you're employed by them? So I started asking about AI and stuff because, what about people are saying that AI is taking over a lot of these jobs and whatever, right? And they kept talking about, look, they were like, AI is only replacing people whose work is easily replaceable. A lot of the skills you have aren't replaceable, Andre. You have manual expertise, but some of this stuff like coding, cybersecurity to an extent, and management of servers and so forth, that part will be replaced. So the non-replaceable skill sets you have, you need to certify yourself in that. And then they said something specifically to me that kind of threw me off because, out of all these years, I never realized this. And you may disagree, but, I don't know. Look, the executive guy was like, look, Andre, everything you are able to do, you claim you're able to do, the things you showed us on your phone or talked about in your portfolio, it's impressive. Yeah, look, I look, clearly you know what you're doing, okay? But none of this shows any manual expertise. And I was like, it just threw me. I was like, wait a minute, man, because I never thought about that. Yeah, they're being harsh and so forth, right? I told y'all they're like grown men who've been in the IT field for decades, executives and other two. I don't know. I forgot what position they are, so right. But he's right. He's 100% right. And I think this may hurt someone else's feelings too, because it hurt mine. But a lot of people who are also talk about they want to get in the IT field and they're making all these projects. They got a whole website, GitHub, GitLab, all this stuff, right? Yeah. Look, I could build a website. Yeah, I can create software. Yeah, I can reverse engineer, do this and that. But technically, none of that shows my hands-on my process, my navigation, or crafting of my work is just there. He's right. People who go like, I could build a website or an app, or I reverse engineer XYZ. It doesn't cut it for proof. Just because it's there doesn't mean what's your process? What are you thinking about internally? This is what I'm talking about with the manual expertise. In an era of AI, hiring teams want proof, not claims. And proof isn't just, here's the end result, y'all. This is like cooking a meal and nobody eating it. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Is that a good analogy? Cooking a meal, you don't like, oh, that meal looks good on the table, but you ever had a meal that looks good, but it tastes like trash? You know, it just looked good, right? How do you make that meal? Maybe it tastes good too, but we don't know what's the secret? How do you know how to cook a meal that good? You know, that's why he's mentioning getting certificates. And he specifically mentioned Cisco to me. Some of you may have heard of Cisco, right? I'll leave the certifications there thing in the description, right? But he said like, this is like what everyone's sort of like looking for right now. But this is why people want certificates and value it more than a degree. Because getting a certificate from like Cisco, for example, showcases that you invested time into very specific, structured learning and can handle practical tasks. Specific certificates that like cybersecurity companies look for example, right, directly validate someone that they have a hands-on skill set that mimics real-world work. Degrees are cool. But they're not on the same demand level as applicable proof to the focused tech skill. And even though getting a certificate doesn't just automatically mean you're the most manually expertise individual ever, but it's way more assuring because it's more focused. Does this make sense? Oh, anyway, so when they were sharing this stuff with me, even though I felt like someone took a dump on like my past 10 years of my work and stuff like that, my whole livelihood in a sense, right? Because, you know, they low-key called me broke too, you know, but which, again, this has been financial support to me, you know, but would it be nice to make a lot more money? I told you, I'm not rich. I've been able to support myself, but I'm not rich. You know, I would like to make actual, engineer money. I would love to. I don't make money like that, you know? So I'm still absorbing this information because I understand, look, there's still an opportunity for me, where, I learned that the current climate for certain skill sets, if you actually want a long lasting and stable career in it, there's certain pathways you got to take at this point. Like, because I guess we're in a time period because of AI and now everyone is behind their computer nowadays and can copy code from GitHub or Stack Overflow or someplace, right? Everyone's just copying and pasting at this point or using AI to do stuff for them. The climate is like that people need to prove themselves now in other ways. We need to see, can you really do this like internally, like mentally, without any of this stuff? I want to know if you could break down the process piece by piece, like you know exactly what you're doing from point A to Z from the most technical, deepest standpoint, deepest level. Anyway, that's sort of the conversation we had and the advice he gave me. It's been lingering with me because I do think about it from time to time. It's like, geez, like, man, I don't know, bro. I thought it was interesting. You might agree or disagree with his advice. That's why I said, like, when I first heard it, like, the guy's an old timer, maybe he's still thinking in the past, but like, I don't know if he's still thinking in the past or we're talking about AI now, and he's talking about, I think what he's saying makes a lot of sense. It's just, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, I'm glad he shared some education with me, but hey, do whatever you want. All right. Do whatever you want with that information. I'm really thinking about just getting some of the certificates just in case, because who knows, maybe some of my businesses, maybe I don't want to keep doing them anymore. What if I want to make like, he's right. I am still making kid money, right? It's enough for me, but like someday I'm going to have to start a family, someday I got to start doing this and that. And I got to, I kind of want more, So this episode is found on Spotify and YouTube. I'm out.